Hey there, it's Jane Miller. How are you? Thanks for tuning in to this excerpt of the Success Formula. And you can see here on the line, my goodness, we have a formula that might look a little scary, but what we're going to do is take you through this. And really, the Success Formula is something that I've used for years and years to lead clients, whether they're executive, management, entrepreneurs, salespeople, employees, and it's really a development process to improve results, both business and personally. So let's get started on this. What I want to remind you is the first rule of holes. When you're in one, stop digging. That's so great. But it is a good idea when you're thinking things maybe aren't going quite right, you're looking for a different result. Stop doing what you're doing. Keep the good stuff and adjust and go from there. So let's talk about the success formula. And in it, you can see we're going to start from the end here. We're going to look at the result, and a lot of times you'll see this in Gantt charts and timelines and project management, but same thing. We have to look for the result that we want to get. And in this case, I'm calling it an SIR. And I'm calling that because we don't just want a result, we don't just want an improved result, but we want results that are sustained over time. Think about when, those of us that go on a diet and it works for a while and it doesn't ever seem to stick. What we need to do and want to do is have sustained results over a time. So this is what we want to achieve, and it also means how we're going to track it and measure it. Everything else we do to develop people is specifically geared towards achieving these results. And when we work with folks, we not only work on the organizational piece, that's where you see the O, we also work on the personal piece of results for people, and that's a great way to engage your people. You know, we ask participants to analyze their own situation and performance, again, both personally and professionally. Then what we do is set goals in those areas that are really most meaningful to them. And you can see in the first wheel, these are more personal. And you bring your whole self to work. So when we set goals in these areas, it will then transfer over, as you see, into the organizational piece, which we have separate goals for that. Sometimes the people skills, the time management, most often will transfer over to what we're doing personally. And all of this, it typically leads to improved organizational results, and that's what you want. And this gives your company financial wherewithal to improve their compensation, work conditions, and all those other benefits. And that in turn gives the participants then, or your employees, the financial wherewithal and resource to achieve even more of their own personal goals and objectives. And then that typically, again, increases their motivation to become better professionally. This is continuous improvement at its best. And this can be self-sustaining. You can see it will become a way of life at the firm. And now you can see how you can turn this into sustainable and sustained results. So let's get back to the formula. And again, working backwards, what we want is a sustained improved result. So working backwards, what do you have to do to get a new result? We got to do something different. And we call that behavior. Those are our behavioral changes. And so wouldn't you agree that in order to achieve different or improved results, you really need to behave differently and your people need to behave differently? And I know one way to get those behavior changes, and it's all about goals. Because when we put goals in place, we create the habit to change behavior, which gets the results. So look at this P3G. So this represents the goals. And when people have clear goals to focus their energy on, it's easier to change their behavior in a way that can be sustained. We ask our folks and your employees or you as the entrepreneur to set goals that touch personal improvement. That's one P. Professional improvement. It's the second P. And organizational process improvement. That's our third P. So we have one really neat exercise where we take a certain process, we roll it out, even really across a wall. We use post-it notes, and what are all the pieces to this process? And then looking at things closely, what pieces can be changed, improved, or just totally left out? So nonetheless, the P3G again represents the goals. And when you set goals and then begin to achieve them with a process that we use here at Miller Institute, it becomes a habit, and that's what we need for real behavior change. The other thing is a want to, and we'll get into more of that a little later. So setting goals in 3 areas is going to be very important to whatever success you're looking for. And then let's keep moving on. We have in the formula this piece in parens, T, S, K. Let's start with the S and K. So S and K represents the skills that are needed, that's the how to do something, and the knowledge needed, and that's the where and when to do something. Again, the skills are the how to do something, and the knowledge is the where and when to do something. Now, a lot of times the skills and knowledge you might think are technical things related to your business, if it's accounting or carpentry or whatever that might be. It also has to do with things like time management and communication skills, how to manage, how to delegate. And our processes with Miller Institute does include those types of skills of knowledge. A lot of times you'll see this in the training realm. And really, we're not a training company, we're a development company. One thing we've noticed over the years that, people get sent to training courses in those soft skill areas, and then they don't see any improvement in the bottom line results. And, this causes us to ask ourselves what's missing. And from our perspective, there's a couple things going on there. One is, what about paying attention to the folks' talents? So talents in this equation, these are the innate gifts that people bring to them. Maybe you hired that one person because they were so detail oriented. Perhaps you hired the other person because they were high energy and could talk to just about anyone. So we not only have to, again, use the skills and knowledge that people bring and that also we train them with, but we need to add in the talent part. This is how your people really get engaged. So if I am a high energy communicator, but I'm left at a desk all day, doing data entry, well, I'll probably get things done, but the engagement may not be there so that I don't make the behavior change that gets to those improved results. So let's make sure we represent all the 3 areas of those skills. Now, again, there's another missing component that when multiplied by the talent, skills, and knowledge is really going to highlight, catapult this thing to a new level. And what it is attitude. So A is the attitudes piece. And really, again, if the skills are the how to and the knowledge is the where to do and when to do something, the A part, the attitude, is definitely the want to and the why to. So attitudes, it's really our process of is a results-oriented philosophy, but it's developing people's goal-based attitudes within you or people within your company. Now, again, attitude is a multiplier of skills and knowledge, and that influences the goals that people set and to achieve results. And again, the attitudes will directly determine whether people can turn a problem into an opportunity, or succumb to it. Attitude will determine if people behave in ways that benefit not only themselves but the entire organization, or if they maintain a little independent fiefdom over there. Attitudes are the thing that's going to determine if we are going to expand our customer base and our services, or if we just allow things to just be. And attitudes will directly have an effect on how we look for continuous improvement, or if we're going to just remain with the status quo. So again, you can see attitudes multiplies what we're bringing to the table. And adding into this again, the three goals with the personal, professional, and the process leads to those changes that will ultimately get you the sustained result that you're looking for. Let's talk more about attitude. So in all of my work, when we talk about attitude, a lot of times the first thing we think of is, well, it's either a good attitude or a bad attitude. Let's think about that just a little differently. If you'd agree with me that attitudes really are made up of our values and our beliefs. And by the way, 88% of our beliefs, and I have it here, are a function of our previous subconscious conditioning. Now, whew, what does all that mean? So my best explanation of conditioning is, when you're driving down the highway, and this just happened to me yesterday, and the speed limit's 55, and I was just doing around that 58, maybe 55, and I'm driving along, singing to my tunes, and so on and so forth, and just around the corner, guess what's there? Yeah, a cop, but he's in a nice, bright, dark blue Charger. Good digs these days. But what do you automatically do? Yeah, you slam on the brakes. I wasn't speeding. I wasn't doing anything wrong. But my previous conditioning is that, oops, there's a police. I gotta slow down. So that's just a quick example of that. But there's so many more. How do we put our clothing on in the morning? Probably, like for me, if I'm wearing pants, my right leg goes in first, or my socks first, then my pants, et cetera, et cetera. And some things we need conditioning so that we can just function. Can you imagine just every morning having to go through a process of making yourself a bowl of cereal? No, we're conditioned, and we just do that kind of thing. But the attitudes piece comes in because the great majority of attitudes that come from our values and belief, you know, really psychologists say that they were developed, around the ages of when we were 5 years old. 5 years old, you know, think about it. During that period in life, we were getting all this information in, and we weren't really judging what we were going to accept or what we were going to reject in that whole picture of things. And we just, did as told, and that's okay. And really, our parents were a piece of that, and I'm not being judgmental. It's just the way we did as parents. We protect our children by, making sure they don't, touch the hot pan on the stove. And again, it's estimated that 77% of what we learned as little kids was negative, right? Versus, what's left, 23% were positive. And probably among the first words that kids understand, besides mommy and daddy, is no. And again, very necessary as we protected our children in raising them. But the no's then become more sophisticated don'ts. See if you can fill in these words that kind of illustrate the point. So don't write on the wall. Don't talk with food in your mouth. Don't play in the street. And don't talk to strangers. Hey, that's a not such a good one of conditioning for salespeople. Don't talk to strangers. How about that? And as we grow into our world as adults, the don'ts have a tendency to migrate into I can't or we can't. And that leads us into the next element of the success formula. So, the 88% of beliefs that are a function of our conditioning, right? So this represents the facts that for about 88% of our day, our behavior is below the conscious level. I mean, we're on automatic pilot as a function of this conditioning, and we don't typically take the time to think about tying our shoes or driving the car or figuring out how we're going to get to work. We just perform those tasks automatically. And why is this so critical to understand? Well, if you agree, and I think you will, that we need to change our behavior in order to achieve different results. And if you accept that 80% of the time we're operating below the conscious level, then we need to think differently at the subconscious level so that we can, again, get these sustained results that we've been looking for. So the learning and development methods that Miller Institute uses, have been selected and honored to be effective, in those particular ways. So it's a brilliant formula. And again, we want to just roll back through it here, and you will see that when we put all these pieces into place, we get the results we need. And one last slide that's a little busy, but I think it'll really help you see what we're talking about. Let's go back to this piece. Well, actually, let's start here, as it says. So again, start at the end. There's a little story where three boys who got into a farmer's field there, and they said, "Who can walk across the field in the straightest manner?" So two of the boys, they were looking down and they were putting one foot in front of the other and, trying to make the straightest line. When the third boy, what he did was he looked across at the result he wanted. He looked across at a tree and he walked straight across to that tree. And of course, he drew the straightest line, or he walked the straightest line. So what result do I want? That's why we start at the end. The other two boys, of course, they zigzagged all across, getting off course very often. So we start with the result that we want. And when I work with, whether it's a sole proprietor, a company of employees, the executive teams, even though they may have a beautiful vision framed on the wall, we still start there with vision, dreaming, and then we look at strategy and planning. But so let's go back to why all these components are important to the success formula. So with the piece where attitudes multiply our talents, skills, and knowledge, in this piece, we ask ourselves, what do I need to think, know, learn, and do in order to change, in order to make this behavior change? And the way we work with that, with our development processes, is with new and positive content, and we use something called spaced repetition, and we'll talk a lot more about this in future sessions. But the idea being, the more you hear something, the more you read something, the more you learn something, it sticks with you. It becomes that habit. So again, what do I need to think, know, learn, and do in order to change? And then looking at those goals, again, the P3G, where we are going to set and achieve personal, professional, and process goals. This asks the question, how do my behavior and actions need to change? So if I need to change something, I need a pathway, I need a strategy, and that's where the goals come in. And it's not only goal setting, it's goal achievement. Because we can write goals down all day long, but I have a special way that we do that, and we've all often heard of SMART goals. So you can imagine what they're going to be, right? I add why SMART goals. So just a quick tip, we write the goals. So the goals must be written, they must be harmonious with whatever else is going on in your life, and they must be yours. That's the WHY, the why SMART goals. Moving on to behavior change. So we ask ourselves the question, what behavior and actions drive the result that I'm looking for? And this really comes down to, after all the goal setting we do and achievement, we have to look at what's the action we're taking every day? What's the consistent action that's needed to get to the result that I want based on the goals that we've set and based on our new knowledge and skills and talents? So it's a consistent action review. When Miller Institute, we work with again, companies or individuals, we work not only on the content for a couple months or whatever that might be, but it's important, it's vitally important that we follow along with folks with some coaching. And I know coaching seems to be, the buzzword of the day, but really it's that guide on the side, it's that person tugging at your, shoulder, putting that little fire or big fire, putting out the carrot, reminding you of the big stick. It's really the consistent action that is reviewed and measured. So it's often said that what's measured improves, and that's one of the ideas behind this. So when you work with us, we don't come in and just train for the day. We certainly follow up, and here's an idea. When we have a group meeting, when we do some company coaching or company facilitation, and there's a dozen people in the process, I coach individually then with each of those folks because it really is a way to help them get engaged and do what they need to do. So there it is, our formula explained all, kind of gave you all the pieces there. And I know you might have some question, but let's go back here to the image that we had. Remember that we could just come in and work on time management, but it doesn't go anywhere if that's all you're working on is time management. So let's work on all the pieces for the organization, but at the same time, help the folks individually in their personal goal area. Can you imagine, if my company did this for me, I would be so grateful and happy, and I would feel better coming to work and being fulfilled and doing all the things that I, love to do, and still working hard for the company because as I improve, then I'm improving on the job. And as I improve on the job, maybe you're going to give me a little extra vacation or, a raise if it's possible, or just appreciation, even if it's that. And that filters back and forth to do the sustainability. So I hope you've enjoyed finding out about the success formula and how it all works and how you can put the success formula to work in your company and your business, no matter what the result is you're looking for. What we need to do next is if you will go to the millerinstitute.com website, and I don't want you to kick the image as it says. How about clicking on the image? And when you do that, I have a second step, a second video that talks about what are the steps, what are the things that you can actually do to get to the success that you need. I also have a really great report out there because if you're thinking about the success formula and thinking, oh my gosh, I got to do all that, well, there's a free report out there that tells us what to do first. And I think you'll really like it. It's very simple and succinct. I think you'll really like it a lot. And also, here's my toll-free, 800-540-2610. So do give me a holler at that phone number with questions, comments, concerns, or where you might need to go next. Thanks for your time today. I sure do appreciate it, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Great day.